over that at length in just a minute. So let's go ahead and get started. Good afternoon. This is Ifan from the Strategic Day Trader, and this is your market wrap for June 6th, 2019. Qs up 0.79%, SPY up 0.64. Okay, we got a little bit of a gap up. Took most of the morning to go sideways, and then we got some continuation here into the close here. As you might recall, coming into today, we were bullish, right? Bullish continuation of the grind higher. We were bearish for almost 2 weeks as the market put in this hourly downtrend. We also identified the daily sell setup, right, which we'll come back to because it's relevant to what we have now. But we followed this hourly downtrend, and then we broke the downtrend, right? And then on any kind of breakout or sell-off, right, those would be your buying opportunities. Okay, so we've been bullish this week as we've continued this grind higher. Okay, and going into tomorrow, we are still going to be bullish on a pullback. Sell-offs are still going to be considered buyable unless we break underneath today's low. Okay, if we break underneath today's low, I think that would be the earliest sign that we want to switch to a neutral bias. Okay, because we're going to have time frame conflict. And it's interesting because we haven't really had it for a few weeks. I know I've said, lately that the market's been relatively easy to follow and to get the bias right. But now it's getting back to a more trickier kind of area now. Okay, so if this downtrend is going to continue on the daily, we are now in the area where you will see resistance step in. Okay, in the same way that we had this hourly downtrend. Okay, you see this? So this was our hourly downtrend, right? We would rally back up, retrace, and then get sold, retrace and get sold, right? And we identified all these opportunities as opportunities to sell until we got extended, and then we broke the downtrend, and then we switched right away from the bearish bias. So what we had there on the hourly, right, could be potentially setting up now on the daily, right? Which is that we were in a downtrend and we're getting the retracement. So underneath today's low, we're going to shift to a neutral bias. We'll see if that gets follow through. If I had to guess, or if I had to predict, right, whether or not this sell setup will actually lead to the new lows, I would think it's unlikely because the monthly looks bullish, the weekly looks bullish, and the hourly is bullish, right? So really it's only the daily here that if this daily gives us the sell setup, actually triggers, and then does not follow through, then there won't be any time frame where the market looks bearish, either in the short term or the long term. So this is really the last time frame here that's showing vulnerability on the Qs and SPY. And so based on the chart here, if we trigger this sell setup and if it fails, then we'll be all out bullish. Okay, and we are all out bullish now, but I just want to point out that we are vulnerable here as we got this retracement multiple days up now into a sell setup. Okay, so we've gotten the retracement, and we'll see what happens either Friday or next week. At some point, we're going to have to resolve this sell setup and see what happens. Now, we also got a sell setup here, right, which is a series of higher lows. We break the higher lows. The expectation is we go back down and retest where we came from, okay? And then in the context of a downtrend, right, you can expect even more follow through. Okay, so we're now getting the sell setup. Hourly grinding higher, very nice grind. This is the kind of angle that is sustainable, right? So this could continue the grind. That's why I still want to see, at least on the larger time frames, some semblance of selling and if that selling can get followed through. Okay, so that's what we'll be looking out for in the coming days. Okay, and I do want to make sure that we do a thorough job of going over the Qs and the SPY, the major indices, because during this time of year, until we get to mid-July, the market is much more important for day trading than when we have a lot of earnings gaps. Okay. When we get gaps like these, like the HOME, this should be on its own page. It's not going to be too bothered by what the market is doing. Okay, but we just don't have very many of these to work with. And similarly to the upside, we had the CIEN, right? This was given to you in the morning as an idea and in the afternoon to be played long. You see closing up here at the highs. Pretty good gap ending this recent daily downtrend into a bit of price void here, right? Now, if you know what we look for in the gap bullies and gap berries, you'll definitely recognize this gap berry on the CIEN. So we just don't have as many of these to work with. So then when we're kind of looking for things to play, it really matters that much more whether you get the market correct or not. Okay, you can see the Qs here, right? In the morning, we were staying around unchanged, and then coming out of lunch here is where you saw the rally start to take place. And then I think there was some news that came out that kind of pushed this even further, right? And so it's not that it doesn't matter, but in all likelihood, majority of symbols are gonna follow the market regardless of what they were doing. And SIG, for instance, even had its own news, even reported earnings, and was at the lows here, basing at the lows. But you can see when the market rallied, this put in the rally too. The OUT, right, initially coming back to retest the lows, also rallied back up to the highs. So majority of things, like I said, there will be things like the HOME, which will stay at the lows. I think one that we're looking at that was showing some pretty interesting relative weakness, ALKS. There will be some. But even then, you can see, well, I guess it was pretty late into the day that, there wasn't really much follow through on that one, on the ALKS. And even the HOME did most of its selling early on, and probably for the last 2 hours of the day didn't really go anywhere. So while the market was rallying, that kind of just held the selling from continuing here on the HOME. Okay, so it's that much more important that we get the market right. Okay, and so if we were looking at this and saying, well, how come the market keeps going higher for the last few days, right? Well, it's because we were following the hourly once we had a bullish bias, right? That should tell you, which way you should be leaning, and also going to inform you also on your day trades, which, like I said, just that much more important during this time of the year. We have less things that are really grinding, doing their own thing, and are independent of the market. Okay, so I hope that's clear. So we are going to maintain the bullish bias, right? And underneath today's low will be where we shift to a neutral bias. Okay, so we're getting a little bit more vulnerable here in the Qs and SPY to trigger that daily sell setup. SPY is showing a little bit more strength to the Qs. We noted that during the sell-off, and we've noted that during the rally as well. Okay, so Qs really looking a little bit more vulnerable than the SPY, but for the most part, they have traded pretty well aligned. There's been a little bit of divergence just in the relative strength of the SPY, but overall, I think you can take one bias from one and apply it to the other. That was the thing with the SPY, is that we went bullish on the SPY before we went bullish on the Qs because it was showing relative strength. So, but either way, it's going to be the same for them both. We're going to maintain the bullish bias until we get that daily sell setup. Okay, so just following the trend here, we'll see if this daily downtrend breaks, and then if that breaks, we will be all out bullish. Okay, so that'll be a nice time frame alignment again, similar in the way that we were all out bearish as the market came in. Okay, hope you did well today. If not, we'll be back at it tomorrow to close out the week, and we'll see what the market gives us. Have a good evening.